Good morning or good afternoon, wherever you are, and welcome to the monthly Dalim Tips and Tricks webinar. My name is Mike Moscato, and today we're going to go over a kind of a preview of ES6, specifically how to work with job tickets in ES6. We did a webinar earlier this year where we went over some newer ES6 features, and I think somewhere in there I mentioned that eventually we'd get around to showing how job tickets are built. So that's what we're going to do today. We always remind you, if you're in GoToWebinar, if you can't get things to fit on the screen, you should have in the top middle of your screen, you should have the old Zoom fit to screen option. And there's a screenshot thing in there now too. I didn't realize that was there. So when you see something, just amazing that you need to capture for posterity, screenshot that guy. So what are we going to do today? Really, I could probably stop with item number one and not even mention any others, because I'm going to spend a lot of time in the job ticket building interface to show how these are now put together in ES6. If you're used to working with building job tickets in ES5 or ES55, when you go into ES6, you're going to feel like you're in a foreign country. It's just not going to look the same. All of the typical visual cues and options that you're used to working with are not there. And the basic formula you use to build them, where you would make rows and columns and all that good stuff, it doesn't exist. So it's a completely new interface. And like I said, I'll probably spend a fair amount of time just in there showing how the different features work. Specifically, you can see the other options we're going to go over, working with the containers, which are little objects that you stuff things into, how to orient and size things. Job ticket rules, something that, again, exists in ES5 and 5.5. It's the same but different, right? Something we mentioned in the webinar earlier this year was the collapsible panels option, which when you see it, you're going to go, I like that. You're going to want that. Although there are certain caveats around that as well. I'll look at and show a couple of the newer components that exist, and we're going to get a quick look into the desktops option. It's always good to remember that desktops, in terms of how they're built, are essentially job tickets. We could probably spend an entire webinar just on desktops, so we'll try not to get too bogged down in all the minutiae of it. Really, the key benefits, and hopefully you'll see this borne out with the new job tickets, is the degree of flexibility you get when you're designing and putting them together, because it's much easier now. If you put something in a position that you don't like, in the old job ticket editor, you often would have to start deleting and backing up. That's not necessarily the case anymore. It's a lot easier to drag and drop and move things around. It's WYSIWYG-ish in terms of what you see and what you're going to get. And the basic things that you would want to have now in terms of, covering up your boo-boos that you can cut, copy, paste, and undo now while building a job ticket. So you can get away with a lot more than what you used to be able to get away with. So I'm going to start just by jumping into ES and go over just the basics, because I'm going to just start a new job ticket from scratch. Let's give it and you can see already, if you know the job ticket editor, you look at this and go, that's not my job ticket editor. So we'll give it a name. We'll call this my job ticket. And just as in previous versions of ES, job tickets can be applicable to document job tickets, workflow projects. The list is essentially the same. I'll just say for the sake of argument that this is a document job ticket. Save it. And the first thing that we get is we get one, again, I refer to these as containers, one container or panel along the top. Again, on the older ES, you would have initially defined a number of rows and columns, but that is done differently now. Because let's say that we knew that we wanted 3 columns worth of information. Well, you'll notice that when this guy is created by default, every container has an orientation. This one's vertical. So if I hit this add button, you'll notice it's adding not columns for me. These are rows, right? So I don't want those. I want columns. So the first thing I'm going to have to do is get rid of those. I can just do a undo. I'm hitting Control Z here. It's not doing anything. I think I went back too far. Oh, so let's delete them manually. So what I want is columns. So I'm going to say, first of all, this guy is horizontal. Got to make sure you have them selected. Add, add, add. So there's 3 columns inside there now. You also want to label your different containers. So we'll label that base one that was created. We'll just call him the ticket. You'll see that pop up at the top. Each panel inside of here now, you'll notice, is vertical. So let's say that for the sake of what we were up to now, we had some metadata we wanted to add in here. So here's all your little metadata options. And you can just drag them in. And you'll see since the container I'm going into is vertical, it orients them vertically. If you want to give the different panels a little more definition, you can put borders around them now. In fact, let's put a border on this guy. Now you'll notice these are butting up against each other now, so you do have the ability to select an object. Let's get this guy out of the way. And you actually have margins. So if I want to put a little extra space between his right and his left, I can put a right margin on this guy. So you see how it pushes him away? And let's say this guy, we want him to get pushed away from there. We'll give him a little right margin as well. And containers contain that they're placed inside of a container. You may also want to label. Say this is my vars, my variables, right? And in addition to just placing metadata inside, let's get this guy out of the way. Components we have. Now, I'm going to get into these a little later on to show how some of these work, but any one of these, let's say we wanted to use, I don't know, we want to be able to show the revision editor, right? Just drag and drop them in there. Now, any component or metadata that you throw in, if you select it, you will get, well, this doesn't happen to be one of them that'll do it, but it'll throw up different options for you to configure the object contained within the container. In fact, let's throw him away. I know a better one to throw in there. This guy called view statistics, right? So if he's in there, like for instance, this guy detail will give a little more information on what it's going to show in there. The other thing you'll notice is that when you throw in metadata or a component, notice that we don't get those options for a border and padding and all that stuff. That is applicable only to the container objects. So that guy, you can see I can manipulate like the size, the scale, borders, the padding, but the objects that are thrown inside of there, you do not have those controls. So if you ever Let's say you said to yourself, boy, I really want that to be narrower, right? Let's say that piece of metadata. The only way you could make him narrower is to place him inside of a container. So let's say we tell this guy we want to add one. Now I can move him. Oops, I missed. Move him inside of that container, and now I can tell the container itself that I only want him to be, I don't know, let's say 50 pixels wide. Got to make sure you have the right thing selected. Oh, yeah, that guy is constrained by the guys inside of it. Yeah, so there's relationships between a container and containers inside of it. Okay, so instead of spending, the next hour in here going over all the features here, I'm going to show you a job ticket that I've already built, and I'm going to show you how to build it. This is an upload job ticket. And actually, you'll see an issue right here is you got to be careful about upload job tickets because you only have so much screen real estate. So this is an upload job ticket that you use. Maybe you want to pass variables to an eTwist workflow. And you see I've got a few options here. Pre-flight only, use default settings, or let the user make his choices. So obviously there's a rule involved here because when I went here, all of a sudden it popped this guy out. And I've got some extra options you can pull up if I say I want these bonus files, right? So that gives this window for us now. So you can see we got some rules associated with it. Over on the other side, I have an option where maybe you want to tag the files with metadata. If you don't, you just don't click this button. But if you do, it'll pop open a panel to give us options. So we want to do some tagging when we upload. So let's see if I can actually build this. And while building it, I think you'll see a fair amount of the different features and how-tos when using the new job ticket editor. I'm pretty sure I'll screw up somewhere along the ways because that one's not completely simple, but let's try it. New job ticket. We'll call it build it because that's what we're doing. We're going to make them global. This is, again, something that's the same as previous ESs. If you don't make them global, you have to remember he has to be added as a layout to your job ticket. And he's an upload job ticket. Let's go. Let's label the main container. Upload options. This guy is vertical. I'm going to make them horizontal because I have two main containers I'm going to place inside of them. And I didn't mention this earlier, but you have to be careful if you want to add new ones inside of a container. Don't hit this guy. He just adds new ones outside of it, right? That's not what we want. We want some containers inside of that main guy. So to add inside of one, select and hit that guy. And these two, I do want to be vertical, and I'm going to add two containers inside of this guy. We're going to call this guy twist variables, twist vars, because that's what's happening down in here. This is the one where we select how we wanted to handle the files, whether we wanted to just use defaults. And all of the metadata I want to use exists in one certain metadata set. So to get through the clutter here, I'm just going to filter on that metadata set. So this is where I'm going to get all my goodies from, right? And from within that file handling guy, we drag this guy inside of there. This container is Yeah, this is our user options. Oops. And I'm going to make him horizontal, and I'm going to put a couple goodies inside of him. Now, you'll see in a second why I did that. This is something that is done fairly commonly with job tickets when we build them in ES5 or ES6. What you'll often do is you'll place a metadata option here, and you'll place another one beside it. And you'll notice sometimes you have a hard time getting it to fall inside that container. You see how I'm just trying searching and I can't get to it. If that happens, the easiest way to deal with it is just say, all right, I'm not messing around. You can copy that guy, select the container you want him to go inside of, and paste it inside. And now get this guy and throw him away. So why did I do that? Why did I put the same guy side by side? It's because in order, if you have a whole column of these things that have the verbiage may be shorter or longer, the way you get them all to line up is you tell it, I want this guy just to show the name and this guy just to show the value. And if you've worked with ES5 job tickets, you're probably familiar with what I just did. And I'm just going to throw a few of these other guys in here. Select output format, right? And here's the really the easy way to do it. Copy him, select, paste them in. So you don't have to drag them in twice. Just copy and paste these guys. And we'll stick one more of these in. I think I had one in here about whether it needed to be trapped. Where is that? Oh, there it is. Drag it in. Copy. I'm just doing Control C and Control V. At least I think I am. Come on. Oh, I did it a couple times. Name and value. Lastly, there was another one, this option. What do we want to generate? The bonus files, right? Well, the bonus files, again, this guy is vertical. I'm going to add another one inside of him and label him the bonus guys. And I'm just going to drag in the two guys that go in there. That guy, and I think it was JPEG cropped. Okay. Lastly, we have this option up here. This is where we wanted to have metadata. Label it. And this guy, I think we're just going to add one column to him. Okay, so let's go and look at what we have so far. Now, I know it's kind of a mess. Pretty sure, because I purposely left out a few things. So what do we see? First of all, we see everything is just kind of floating around, you know, in the middle of nowhere because I got no borders on it. And you'll also see that, remember that we had this stuff hidden before, but it's all showing up. So we need to put some rules in here so that we can hide or show based on metadata selections. So first, let's put some borders on here so the whole thing gets some definition. And it's not a bad idea to put borders on most of your containers. You can end up making it a little too busy, but oh, this guy, he missed. You could get him inside of that container. There we go. Give him, and you know, I'm just throwing borders on, but you can change the width of them, you know, get different border type, different color. I don't know. Let's go with a dotted red border. if you can do something like that, why not? Come on. Let's give him a border. And we'll give him one, and then we'll stop with the bordering. So let's see if that looks any better. Should. Oh, that dotted red border is fantastic. Okay, the last thing we need to do is we need to put the rules in here so we can get these guys to show when needed. What I want to do is I want this entire panel to disappear, or more accurately, I want it to appear only if a certain option is enabled. So you select your panel, and you can also do it with just a specific metadata value, but I'm going to do it with the entire panel. New rule. I want it to show only if this metadata value scope is upload, because this is an upload job ticket. If that guy equals this user choice option, I want it to show. And you'll notice you can put a whole series of them in. You can do logic where it's an and or an or. I've only got one of them in here, so that should work. And this little bonus guy here, right? Same thing. I want him to show only when this metadata, the bonus metadata, equals, I think it's set to true. Yep. Let's see where that gets us. And you can see there's a fair amount of jumping back and forth when you just, and you can see our panel doesn't show anymore. That's good. It's supposed to only show when I choose him. And let's say you decide you want the bonus files, click him. There we go. The last part is this metadata panel here, and I've left that for the last for a reason. Now, what I want to do is I want to put a whole panel of different metadata options in here, but I really don't feel like having to do that because I have another job ticket that already has everything I need. So the question is, can I copy and paste from a completely different job ticket into another? Let's see. So I want to copy that entire panel. Let's go here, and I'm going to paste them. So obviously I pasted them, but notice he just kind of came down to the bottom outside of where I want him to be. That's because I didn't have anything selected. So again, when you paste, you should be sure that you have the object selected that you want it to go into. But, you know, all is not lost because we can still just drag and drop these guys. Just stick him right in there. There he is. He's already got a border. So the last thing we have to do is tell it, I only want him to show, give him a rule. Actually, I'm going to do it backwards. I'm going to tell it to hide him if, I think it's also the same metadata set. Yeah, it's called show. If he equals false, he should be hidden. The other thing I should mention is the little red dot denotes that there's a rule associated with it. And before we go look at the final of my masterpiece, if let's say you think, that rule, I need to edit that. I don't think it's right. So if you click it for that object, you'll see it show down here. And I think it's not all that obvious how you get them, because you think, what does that mean? What does show? Well, all it means is I have a rule that's set to show under a certain condition. If I click this one, it's going to say hide, because you remember that I made that one hide. So it'll show here, you click it, and you get back into the rule to edit it. Last chance. All I'm really interested in is if that rule worked, and it did. There we go. I think I got pretty close, actually. Looks pretty much the same to me. I think I missed a few borders. So there's one thing I want to show now that's related to changing the use of a job ticket and how your rules then may suddenly not behave the way you thought they should have. So let's say we built this job ticket and said, I don't want this. I want to use this as a project job ticket instead. That's where I want it to show up in the main job ticket when I create a job. So I'm going to change it. Save it. Since it's global, it should show up in any job ticket that I have. So we go here. There's that build it guy, right? And we go inside and we say, hey, wait a minute. My rules aren't working anymore. Why aren't they working? The reason they're not working is that we initially built this as an upload job ticket. Since it was an upload job ticket, when we defined the rules, we told it to key off of the scope was set to upload. Well, since this is a project job ticket now, the scope needs to be project. And that's true for all of these guys that I have in here. I'll just grab this guy, fix him, and hey, we might as well make the whole thing correct. Why not? So this guy should now give us what we want. Build it. Give me that guy. Give me that guy. Give me that guy. So you should be cognizant of how rules behave if you change the job ticket type, and then have to make sure the metadata scope is set properly. Okay. Oh, there's one other thing I need to show. Yeah, Fred?
Since you're kind of slowing down there, we do have a question on whether existing job tickets will work when they upgrade.
Yes, they will. We have seen a couple cases of extremely, and I mean extremely complex job tickets that initially had an issue. I think in the latest versions, we've seen them behave. Although even at that, I think I've seen, with those, some of the things like the borders, I think had to be redefined. Really simple, like something like this, I don't see a reason that we would have an issue with this. I also discovered that they're not backwards compatible. So I tried to I exported an ES6 job ticket and I tried to import it into an ES5, and that's a no-no. I'm not sure why you'd want to do that, but I figured why not? Let's see if it's possible. Okay, I wanted to show something related to sizing. So let's see, where is that guy? Yeah, here is just a really dopey job ticket. There's really nothing much going on. It's got a container with a hunk of metadata. So let's say once again, I wanted to get that panel from this other job ticket, right? So I'm going to copy him. And we're going to go to the simple guy. Where is he? Simple. And let's paste him in there. Now, one thing we notice about this guy is that he's vertical, right? So that's why everything is vertical. But let's say I want it to be horizontal. I want these metadata guys to go out across horizontally. So you would think it would be a simple matter of changing him to horizontal. Well, it doesn't look horizontal to me. They're still set up vertically. So you think, well, maybe it's just maybe the editor isn't accurate in how it displays this, so I'm going to just go, I think it's a document job ticket. I'm going to just go look at it because I just don't believe that editor. I know what horizontal is, but no, it's still vertical. So the reason that this guy will not display horizontally is because, again, he's constrained by the size of the container that he's inside of. So that container was set to 300 pixels wide. So let's say I make him 600. Okay, we're getting somewhere now. But it still cannot fit all of these in based on that restriction. If you blank out a width, that basically gives you the whole width of the screen. So you look at this, and this is a case where the job ticket editor can fool you, because I could say, I don't know, it doesn't look like it's there yet. But if I actually put away the panels here, I do have this whole thing now going horizontally across the screen. So you have to, there are times where it will trick you, and you may have to go to viewing the actual job ticket in action, and you can see that guy is horizontal and he does go all the way across. So you have to be cognizant, and I think this happened to me earlier, that the fact that a container can restrict the width or height of objects that reside inside of it. That's why if I tried to make this guy wider, it wouldn't do me any good because he's constrained by him. Okay. The next thing I want to show you is something that we refer to as a collapsible job ticket. Now, this is a job ticket that has, this is a new component, and I'm going to go over this a little later, how I actually set this guy up. You can basically put all your favorite user actions within a job ticket. So one click, get the user action you want. This is the keyword editor. So if you need to do tagging of multiple files, pop in the keywords there. This guy is, and this is just a bunch of metadata in here. And this XF tool is a holdover that we've had for a while. It's a component. It's useful if you're viewing a lot of images. But I want quick access to this guy. So I don't want to have to click a file and go to properties. I want to be able to view him directly in a project view or directly in a smart view. So notice this option here that I clicked. It's called in collapsible panel. So if I go to any file, let's look at the ducks here. Notice that job ticket appears here. So without having to do the Command I properties, and notice it doesn't show up in here, you have these things easily accessible to you. So, you know, if I decided, I can go to the file system here. We'll go to the old miscellaneous folders. Let's say I needed a contact sheet. Just go straight to your job ticket. So it's a very quick and easy way to access your user actions, tagging. You know, because if I wanted to define keywords for all 6 of these files, let's see, I guess those are cacti, and I don't know, there's some greenery involved, right? So if I select any one of them now, I should see that. If I check the metadata, there's the keywords. So that's a very quick way to tag multiple files. There's a gotcha here, and I think we mentioned this in the webinar earlier this year. Notice that save button that's sitting here in this guy. That does not appear by default when you, especially if you're fixing to use the keyword editor. You have to make sure, in fact, I'll throw him away. You have to make sure you go to your components. I always forget the name of this thing. What's it called? the SMV save button. Now, that's not a really good name. The SMV save. I guess it's supposed to be the Smart V save button. I don't know, but that's poorly named. But the fact is, if that guy wasn't in there, I could have gone in there and I could have edited all, put all those keywords in, exited it out, and I would have thought everything was fine. But it would not have updated if I hadn't put that save button in and obviously remembered to hit the save button. Okay, for the rest of the presentation, I'm going to switch to another server. The reason being, I'm going to show you some desktops on this other one, and there's so many moving parts that I really didn't feel like moving it from the server where I had it all in place to this other guy. I figured it was just easier to let it stay put. So we're coming to another ES server. Still ES6. And actually, I forgot. There's one thing that I do want to show related to the collapsible panel guy. It's basically a gotcha, I think. And this will also show you a couple extra components in here. So this one has the keyword editor. It's got this guy, which I think is pretty interesting. This is called, and I think you saw me throw it in earlier, it's called View Statistics, and I'll show you in a second what he actually does. This is that user action thing I was playing with earlier, and I told you I'd show you how we incorporate that. So this guy is a horizontal panel. So I'm going to put Start User Action in there. And I want several of them, right? So I'm going to copy him. Come on. And now I should be able to just paste a bunch of those guys in. So again, you'll notice in ES5, I had to drag it in 5 times. Now I can do it. One, copy, paste. So how do you make these panels? What you do is you stick that Start User Action component in there, and then you tell it which user action do I want to associate with it, and you give it a name. This guy. I'll just do a couple. This one makes grayscales. So the label is not necessarily the same name as the user action. So you probably should give them the same name, but I never follow my own advice. Yeah, we'll just stick one more in there. That one where you crop a file. We'll call it the cropper. Okay, so I'm going to show you how this looks in a collapsible panel, but then show why the collapsible panel may not always be the best idea. See, because depending on what you put in here, your collapsible panel may end up swallowing up your whole screen. Because you'll notice this is a history. And maybe I want to get the history of the file. Well, I can't really see it unless I really pull that guy out. So you have to be careful. If you want to use a collapsible panel, just be aware that, you know, the components or the piece you put in it, you don't want it to swallow up your whole screen. It could be a little problematic. And actually, I wanted to show what that statistics thing does. I think I had some files in here I was messing with earlier. Let's see if he's one of them. Yeah. So for instance, if you want to see how often something's been viewed, and especially if you want to keep track of files that people have downloaded, you can see right here, I downloaded it 20 hours ago. I viewed it 4 times. And I think I had a bunch of other ones in here. Yeah. Bill Marcellus Wallace downloaded that one. But to finish the thought, though, on, you know, a collapsible panel just being too big for its britches, maybe, this specific job ticket is more appropriate used in this fashion, where if it was important, right, that we had the whole object history to be viewed, that it would maybe make more sense here, and then make a dedicated job ticket with just, these three guys in it. Okay, let's look at desktops. Mentioned this earlier. Should always remember about desktops is they are job tickets. So just as in ES5 and ES55, the job ticket editor for desktops was very restrictive. In ES6, it uses basically the same GUI to drag and drop and arrange your different objects in your desktop. So first of all, I'll show you what this desktop looks like. Let's log out. So here is a desktop. Now this is just one that I put together. There are much smarter people than me who to build desktops. But the things you can do here now is, and this is a key point to remember, and I'll show you how to get around this in a little bit, is that desktops are linked to a smart view. Here's the main panel where I display my files, right? And it's linked to this guy called my smart view. Key point to remember is smart views can be document smart views or project smart views. So we've always been kind of in a situation where the desktop that I'm looking at is restricted to just showing documents, because this uses the document smart view. I'll show you a second how we get around that. Now, we could put panels away. I can just put the search bar away. I can put the entire top panel away. Now, when we work inside of here, again, since it's controlled by a smart view, we can view the tool panel here, or maybe you like to work from pull-down menus, right? You can do both. Or if you like the tools, bring the tools out, put that guy away, right? This is the clipboard. It's kind of hard to see, but there's a little number in there. If I select a couple files, stick them in the basket. Pretty sure it says 3. Oh, look at that, it's 3. There's your basket, or your clipboard. Oops. Or your basket, if you want to see if you got anything in the basket. Or if you want to look at your private collections, those are all here. Pops them in, pops them out. Now, the search bar does something a little different when you're working in a desktop. So I got a file here, and I know it starts with 60. So watch as it searches, it throws down a series of files that it matches. But as I enter more in the name, it narrows down the results that it's going to return. Now, if I just hit search bar now, it'll return those 2 results. But if we go further, I think it was 6477, it's just going to return the 1 file, click it. Now it returns that in our search window. So that's pretty handy, the way the search bar now will give you a broad match, but then narrow it down.
It'd be nice if they would incorporate that into the regular yes interface. I like that.
Yeah, I'm not sure why they haven't, because it is pretty handy. Okay, so now I'm going to show you something I was alluding to earlier. Let's go back to the home. Now we know that this is the document Smart View. But notice this little button I have here that I put in called Alternative Desktops. I'm going to click on this guy, and I'm suddenly in a Project Smart View. Well, I should rephrase that. This is another desktop that's linked to a Project Smart View. So you can go from viewing your documents to, and I don't have many projects in here, I only got a few, but you can view the project, the status of your projects, hopefully in something a little less bare bones than this. But then you can also say, oh yeah, that job there, if I double click it, it takes me right back to the document desktop that I was in earlier, right? Now, the other way I could have done it is if I had seen what I needed to see, I've also got a link here back to it. So we can move from desktop to desktop. Now, the way that's done, and this didn't exist in ES5 and ES55, is we drag in this bookmark menu, which did exist in the older versions. And if you hit the plus button, it gives the ability to link. This is something it did before. You could link to Smart Views, but you could not link to desktops. So I now have, from within a desktop, a link to other desktops. And I'll show you one that's kind of crazy. So I'm going to go to this other desktop I have. Now, this desktop is a desktop that references a Smart View. It also references another completely different desktop that has a basic Smart View associated with it. It also references another desktop linked to a Smart View that shows only the files on approval for my user. If I go back to the stats, it brings me to that initial Kibana page. And from here, and I probably should have put this in all the desktops, I have a link back to my original desktop that we worked in. So you now have the flexibility, although, you can maybe end up going a little bit down the rabbit hole if you're in a desktop linked to a desktop that's linked to other desktops, right? So you have to be careful about how you think these things out, right? And in terms of how these other guys were put together, this is this one called assets, right? If we look, this is the one we linked to initially. And if we look up top, right, he was linked to a Smart View, another Smart View, desktop, another desktop. And again, that option comes from this menu of bookmarks component. And again, this only shows up when you're configuring a desktop job ticket. I think you saw me earlier messing around with components when we were building a regular job ticket, right? So the components that you see within here are not the same as the components that you see when you're building a desktop job ticket.
So were you channeling DiCaprio and Inception doing this?
Well, the fact is this one that I wound up linking to is one that showed up. It imported when I set up the ES6. So I didn't even build it. I accidentally wound up here and had to try to figure out where I was and how to get out of it. But it's a pretty good example of how to start off from what seemingly is a pretty basic desktop view, but then have it linked to multiple other types of views based on what it is you need to see or what it is you need to do.
Yeah, it's really giving us a nice way to customize the interface for specific users.
Yeah, it's pretty good. And that's basically all I had.
That's good.
If there's any questions?
Yes. One, does the collapsing or the hide and show feature work on collapsible panels?
I don't know. It should, but let's find out. Let's go get that guy. Let's see. Up, wrong machine. I don't have it set up over here. Let's go over here. Uploader. So this guy. So in order to get him to show up in that side, we're going to have to make him document job ticket. And since I did that, we just have to change the scope of this guy. Let's see if it works. And we'll just use him as our example. And you'll notice, I can't find, where's collapsible? I can't find it. It's because I've got a container selected inside. You've got to click outside to get to the main. So there's a collapsible panel. Save it. Select any file. It's called uploader, but it's not an uploader. All right, here we go. It should be that one. Yep, looks like it works.
It's interesting. Good feature.
But again, this is another example of something that may not be appropriate in the collapsible panel because, that he's, although, put him away. Makes sense. I'm sure our creative users will find a way to do it.
Another question is, have you used the desktops with mobile devices?
Let's see. I don't see why not. Because at the end of the day, all that it is, when you access a desktop, the only reason I got here is because I logged in under a specific user profile. And that user profile, if you haven't done this before with desktops, where is that guy? Oh, again, wrong server. That's what I get for switching between servers. If I hadn't been so lazy, I would have put it all in the same one. Yeah, this user profile is linked, so the default function is to display that desktop. We can always test it with a
yeah, we can send that out
with an iPad, see what happens. I sure wouldn't want to try it from an iPhone, but from an iPad, I'm pretty sure I've done it.
Yeah, and I know you covered part of that for the webinar you did on that stuff with most of it was with Dialog itself, how to view it. But you did kind of show that, so that's a good one to refer to. And then the last question is inevitable. When will we get ES6? We're still waiting on final word from Dalim. We're working out basically the same answer I had a couple of weeks ago or a couple of months ago, webinars back. That they are still working on some of the legal aspects of the subscription model they're working on. And we should have a release version soon after that. We don't have an exact time frame yet. We were talking about end of September. Don't look like it's going to make that now, so hopefully sometime in October. Graham will get me more information as soon as he has someone that I was speaking to him and Christoph Bimmer this morning about that. So the versions that Mike is working on, Mike, it's an in test right now, isn't it?
Yeah, this is, let me see if I get the number right. 9637-6 for whatever that's worth, right? But that's an in-test build. There are several issues we saw with earlier versions that are fixed there, but they've still got a few things to fix in this version. So, and what's the date today? The 16th, 17th?
16th.
So, end of the month, I'll be pleasantly surprised if we have a release at the end of the month.
It does sound like a lot of the legal stuff is what's holding it up the most. I think from what Bill was saying this morning, it seems like it's slowing down some of the patching as well because they're waiting for being able to finalize a release candidate. We'll see. As soon as we know more, we'll actually send that information out to our customers. So,
okay, I think everyone knows. Webinars, third Wednesday of the month. Not sure what's cooking for October, but we'll let you know when we come up with topics. If you have a topic you'd like to see us do, let us know. Anything that piques your interest will pique our interest.
We did get a late question, Mike. Outside the scope of this meeting, but is anything different in eTwist under ES6? And
I honestly can't think of anything that's different.
I believe most of it is specific to PDF standards, better support for PDF 2.0, things like that. So it's more format related than, let's say, features inside of it. Most of the stuff is kind of business for future.
Yeah, I was thinking of it in terms of how eTwist and ES work with each other. You know, from that point of view, I don't think there's anything different.
Yeah, no architectural changes.
No.
Okay, and that's it, guys. But thanks again for everybody, and we'll talk to y'all next time.